I'm here with Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, let's talk about the English Democrats and the Robin Tilbrook case that essentially says that Brexit has already happened. It's over and done, all wrapped up. It happened on the 29th of March, 2019. There's no need for an October 31st rehashing of all this stuff. It's been complete. Brexit has taken place. Alexander, you've done a lot of research into this case. You've got a lot of stuff to relate to our viewers. What have you found out about this case? Is it on solid footing? Is it valid? What are your opinions?
Right. Can I just say, first of all, that we've had lots and lots of requests from our viewers for us to comment about this case, and we've managed to get in touch with some of the people involved in it, and they very generously provided us with the court papers. I would stress these are the papers that have been filed in court and which have actually been published, so we're not seeing any of the private opinions or anything of that kind, and that's given me an opportunity to familiarize myself with this case and just to explain what it is. And who the people who are bringing it are. It's been brought by a political party called the English Democrats, which is a party which basically wants to assert English nationhood. I think initially within the United Kingdom, I've seen some reports which suggest that they want to secede from the United Kingdom. Well, I think that's overstating what their objectives are. But I mean, I think the key point that they're making in this claim is that a parliament, the House of Commons, and the House of Lords, the British Parliament passed legislation that said that Britain would leave the European Union on the 29th of March 2019. That is Brexit Day. That legislation has not been repealed, and it is still on the statute book. It was not repealed on the 29th of March 2019. Theresa May, as Prime Minister, purported to agree to extend Brexit Day first to a date in, I think it was June, and now to the 31st of October by direct negotiations with the European Union. The English Democrats say that that is wrong, that she can't exercise her powers as Prime Minister simply to override an act of Parliament in that fashion. And because there is an act of Parliament that says Britain leaves the European Union on that day, which is the 29th of March 2019, and because that Act of Parliament has not been repealed or set aside, Britain accordingly has left the European Union, because we are now in July and Brexit Day has happened. Now, is it well founded? Does it have a solid basis in law? Having read these papers very carefully, my clear view is that it does. I think that there is a case in law here. My further view is that it's going to have an enormous amount of difficulty getting the High Court to accept it. A High Court judge who has looked through the papers, all of these papers, and read them in a preliminary decision, has found against the English Democrats, and he's even gone further, and he said that in his opinion their case is wholly without merit. I think that goes far too far, and I think, as I said, that it is a well-founded case in law, but I'm afraid anything that involves Brexit is not a straightforward legal case. And I'm not going to say with any confidence that they will win, but I understand that they are appealing the decision of that judge. And I'm hoping, because I think they should be given an opportunity to have their say, that they will win that appeal. And I think they have grounds to.
Are you saying that the judge ruled against this case
Yes.
for political reasons mostly? Because you said that it's, when you're looking at it purely from a legal perspective, this deserves to be heard in a court of law. So this is political in essence.
Yes. Well, let me explain exactly what happened, because as I said, when one is discussing these kind of cases, it's never straightforward, and then there is always a mix of legal and political. Now, the thing to understand is that under the British Constitution, the Prime Minister, as the head of the government, and the government, in fact, have various inherent powers. They have those powers simply by virtue of the fact that they are the government of Britain. They exercise what is called the royal prerogative. The royal prerogative are the inherent powers that the Crown retains and which the Queen's ministers as the government retain. And what the argument was that the government has put forward in response to this case is that, yes, there was all this legislation, and no, it hasn't been repealed, and yes, what happened on the 29th of March was not in accordance with this legislation, but the government was entitled to do what it did under its prerogative powers, and the legislation does not set aside the prerogative. It's a act of Parliament which does not abolish the government's prerogative in this sort of case. Now, that is a legal argument. It's both a political argument and a legal argument, because when one is talking about the government's powers and its exercise of those powers, that's partly a political question, but it's also obviously a question of constitutional law. But what is extremely interesting is that the government admitted that what it did was not in accordance with the legislation that Parliament passed. And I have to say, given that that is so, I find the judge's decision to say that the case is wholly without merit rather strange. I would have thought myself that there is a good arguable case here. Now, I'm not saying it's going to win, and I want to make that very clear. But I think, given as I said, that the government has admitted that there is legislation and they didn't follow it, and given the huge public interest involved in this sort of case, I think that the judge went too far, and I think he made a mistake, and I hope the Court of Appeal agrees and sets his decision aside. Do
you think they're going to agree? Do you think we're going to get to hear this play out in a courtroom?
I think there's a chance we will, because I think the Court of Appeal does take into account public interest issues, and I think they are aware that Britain is, as I say, very divided on this question of Brexit, and that a lot of people feel very strongly about it, and an awful lot of people, I think, feel that the way in which Brexit was extended, that Brexit Day was extended, was inappropriate. Now, I'm going to just add two further things, which is that, firstly, I think it's a bit difficult to say, at least I find it a bit difficult to say, that the legislation doesn't affect the government's powers when the government before Brexit Day seemed to think that it did. Theresa May stood up and said on 103 occasions that Brexit was going to happen on the 29th of March. She seemed to think she was bound by this legislation until she suddenly decided otherwise. So I would have thought that was a point that the Court of Appeal ought to take into account. But the other thing that I think the Court of Appeal must or should take into account is the fact that as there is legislation there, and as the government has admitted that it didn't follow that legislation, I think that is clearly an arguable case. And I think, as I said, on legal grounds alone, it should be heard. That's my view.
You said that there's a lot of public interest in this case. Is there media interest in this case? Is the media picking this up? The mainstream media?
I read one little article in the Daily Telegraph. Elsewhere, there's an almost complete media blackout about it. Well, and I'm going to tell you why. And in fact, it's a point that's been made by the government's lawyers in the case itself. I mean, what they've said is, that this case is ultimately absurd because, of course, we are still part of the European Union. The House of Commons has accepted we are still in the European Union. They even passed a law after Brexit Day saying we are in the European Union. And, of course, the undercurrent behind all of this is that, of course, if the case succeeds and there's a decision that we are not in the European Union, then, I mean, the whole political establishment here is going to go into total meltdown. I mean, there will be questions asked about how we ever came into this situation and what Theresa May was doing, what all those debates in the House of Commons, which we covered so exhaustively in the Duran were all about. The newspapers, the Remain newspapers will go, we will completely freak out, and the business community will completely freak out. And there will be huge criticism of the government for landing Britain in a situation where it is out of the European Union without anybody sort of realizing it. So that's an argument that the government is making in the case. And it may sound like a purely political argument, but it's actually also a legal argument. But it also explains why the newspapers don't want to cover this, because from their point of view, from the point of view of their own thinking, it would be a total disaster if this case succeeds.
All right. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below. Click on that notifications bell to make sure you get notifications every time we push out a new video. You can get a copy of this video in audio format. Follow us on iTunes and Soundcloud. And you can also donate to us via PayPal, Patreon, and we are now on Subscribestar. The links are in the description box down below, and your donations really help out this channel. The other thing that helps out this channel, Alexander, is when people buy shirts, polo shirts, t-shirts, V-necks. V-neck. Tank tops. We have tank tops for the summer.
Tank tops. We also have caps and
we also have caps and hats for the summer. Absolutely, keep the sun out.
Because I mean, here in England, I'm afraid it gets so wet and cold that you may not always need summer hats on every day, but you do sometimes. But around the world, you should always be with your Duran hat on a hot sunny day. I mean, that's my own view. And you should certainly be wearing wonderful polo shirts like this one. I mean, look what a beautiful shirt this is, Alex. 100% cotton. It fits beautifully. It's cut marvelously. It's got a double-headed eagle there, beautifully embroidered. It is an absolutely great polo shirt. And as I've been saying to our viewers, I've been to all sorts of resplendent places, stately homes of England, wearing Duran polo shirts and getting admiring glances. And I've also been recently to an embassy, the Embassy of Greece. This was on a business matter, but I was also wearing their this polo shirt in London, and again getting admiring glances. So, I mean, these are wonderful shirts, and how can you possibly be without one when you will look so good in one? So go to the Duran shop and help the Duran by buying one, and help yourself by owning one. And you can also own amazing mugs like these.
Magic mugs.
Magic
which
mugs.
will improve your geopolitical quotient by, at a minimum, 50 points.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a gross underestimate, by the way, Alex. I'm sure it's much more than that. And as I said, they really are amazing mugs. I mean, they're beautifully made. They're porcelain. They don't chip. They balance wonderfully in the hand. I'm drinking jasmine pearl tea from mine at the moment. Now, this is a very, very wonderful tea with wonderful sort of little balls of jasmine flowers inside. You know, they're sort of wrapped up in the tea. And the reason I'm drinking it is because it's a wonderful summer tea. It's also very refreshing, but it also reproduces some of the effects of caffeine. In other words, it gives you a sort of it revitalizes you. So you get revitalized by drinking from one of our Duran mugs, as we always do. And I'm revitalizing myself even further after a long, hot day at the embassy with Jasmine Pearl. And a mug like this is the perfect vehicle, the perfect mug for it. And here's the other mug I have, which has the double-headed eagle, this time of Moscow, with the imperial crown and St. George slaying the dragon of false, fake news and untruth, which is what we do on the Duran. And I think, Alex, you've also got some mugs.
Today I got the special limited edition, awesome Kremlin. I was going to say the Moscow emblem, but the Kremlin emblem, the Putin mug. The
Absolutely.
emblem that Putin had when he was drinking out of the thermos during the Osaka G20. This is the mug, Alexander. Yours is on its way. From what I understand, it should be coming to you very, very soon. So you'll also have this mug. It's simple. It's just elegant. It's just a beautiful mug. I mean, really beautiful. I was, when I saw these mugs, I mean, I was just like, geez, these are really, really nice. The colors, the finish, the weight.
Yeah.
I mean, these are like not flimsy, IKEA kind of mugs here. These are like the real deal. And I also got the Alpha Group one, the Spetsnaz.
The Spetsnaz. Yes, I mean, if you go to the
Russian up here at the top, it has the A, it has the sword coming down.
Yes.
Anti-terror. Really nice, beautiful colors, blue and yellow.
Blue and yellow, exactly. I mean, the Russians, by the way, are very good at making sort of heraldic devices. And if you go to the Kremlin and, you get invited by Mr. Putin to a Kremlin banquet, which is, by the way, people do. I mean, the Russians regularly host large receptions in the Kremlin, and people from the diplomatic service and the media and the business community will all go to the Kremlin, and they will have amazing food there. Some of the cooks have learnt their how to cook from old imperial Tsarist cookbooks, apparently. So, and it's all served on tableware, which has that emblem which Alex just showed you. I mean, this one. And which is, as you correctly say, Alex, incredibly elegant. Suffice to say, it made a really big impression when Putin brought a mug like that and showed it. It was drinking tea in front of the other world leaders at Osaka just a few weeks ago. And as for Alpha Force, well, as I said, it is. I reckon that along with the SAS and perhaps Delta Force, it is possibly the best special forces unit in the world, and it's been one that's done lots of tough fighting in many, many places, in Afghanistan, in Chechnya, in Syria, where they fought ISIS. Of course, they don't give themselves or are given much publicity, but it is a formidable unit, military unit. And in Russia, Russians are extremely proud of it.
All right. Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, the link to the Duran shop is in the description box down below. So pick up a polo shirt, pick up a t-shirt, pick up mugs. It really helps us out a whole lot when you buy from our shop. And you get great merchandise, like Alexander said. Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.